Hello, sir. What can I do for you?
Howdy there, partner. I'm in the market for one of them new internet radio show t-shirts I hear so much about on them applications.
T-shirt, you say?
Yeah, one that'll catch the eye of my lovely lady friend.
You know what? I think I may have something right up your alley.
Oh, do tell.
You see, we have this awesome Hanes tagless tee with the slick logo of Nerd Talkless Podcast Network on the front, with all the awesome shows listed on the back. Nerd Talkless Podcast, Fandom Vibe, and even Bridging the Geekdoms.
Well, I'll be a horse's patoot.
That's right, and you can get that all for the low cost of $17.99 at teespring.com, as well as coffee mugs, stickers, tank tops, and hoodies.
I'm gonna have to get me one of them stickers for the back of my pick-em-up truck.
That's excellent, man. Just log in to teespring.com/shop/nerdtalkalypse network and order yours today.
Yeehaw! But wait, why did I walk into a store if you're gonna send me to a website?
What's going on, everyone? This is Robert from Bridging the Geekdoms Podcast. How's it going? So I'm really getting used to this whole doing my solo act thing on here, and sometimes I just come up with ideas. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna jump on the podcast and just talk about it. Let's do it. That's kind of what I've been doing. As you know, Colton the other day last week did his first solo episode where he talked about video games and different stories and aspects of video games, which I thought was really cool. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's a nice 35 minute episode where he just talks about video games. If you're a video game fan, check it out. I think you'll enjoy it because I really enjoyed it. Now, this episode, this one here specifically, is going to be about the DC Cinematic Universe, Extended Universe, DCEU, whatever you want to call it. We have Comic-Con coming up in just a few days. San Diego Comic-Con. That's where a lot of things get announced. A lot of ideas are put out there. Unfortunately for DC and Warner Brothers, the last couple years have been kind of rough for them. Whether you enjoy the movies that have come out or not, it's been a rough couple years for them. So quickly, let's just take a look. It started with Man of Steel back in 2012, which is a fantastic movie. If you know me, if you've heard me talk, you know that I believe that Man of Steel is quite possibly the quintessential superhero movie. It is near a masterpiece as you can get when it comes to superhero films. It has everything you need, a hero that you can relate to, a villain that is still to this day the best villain that has been in a comic book movie to date, at least in the modern comic book movie era, I should say. Fantastic villain, awesome action, great fight scene, great narrative, a good story arc, a coming of age story, a hero's journey that is done very, very well. I think it's a perfect film, near perfect film, I should say. No film's perfect, but I think it's a near perfect film. Beautifully shot, wonderful music, everything. That's Man of Steel. Then, in 2015, we got was it 2015 or 2016? I'm sorry. Really? Was it that long? Man. We got Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, I know, that is maybe easily one of the most divisive films to come out in the past 15 years. Rivaling that would be Star Wars The Last Jedi, but we're not talking about Lucasfilm and Star Wars, we're talking about DC. And Batman vs. Superman was very divisive. I know I went in the theater, came out extremely disappointed. I went with two of my best friends, and there was a guy sitting next to me in the movie theater, and when the movie ended, the guy that was sitting next to me stood up and started clapping. I look at my friends, one of which fell asleep during the movie. The other just kind of looked at me and was just like, what is this guy doing? Because it was that bad of a film. The theatrical version was horrible. It was all over the place, didn't flow like it needed to flow. However, while I do bash the theatrical version a lot, and I have actually revisited it just in the past couple weeks, my son wanted to watch it. And being that he's only, 9 years old, I didn't want him to watch the unrated version because there are a couple F-bombs in there and so on. So, or I think one F-bomb in there. But I wanted to kind of revisit that, see what that was like again. it does not hold up. That theatrical version, not that it held up in the first place, it just was not a good movie. The extended edition is much better. But either one that you look at is still a divisive film. There's still a lot of issues with the movie. I will give it that. But it is, in my opinion, an interesting movie. One that is solely based on understanding what Zack Snyder was trying and is trying to put across in his trilogy of sorts that he was making, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and eventually would have been Justice League. He had an idea. He had an idea for the Superman arc, and it was really making sense. You know, the first movie and becoming and understanding who he's meant to be. The second movie, should he be that? Why should he be that? Especially when the world, and it takes a look at the world in a real world sense, because it is a dark place, and you know, people don't stay good in the world, and that's what that was, you know, showing Superman his inability at that point in time to understand how to live the life of being a superhero in a world that is not good. And then Justice League would have eventually been the redemption, the understanding, and know-how of how to be this superhero. That was the idea behind all of this. But Batman vs. Superman was so divisive that things had to change. And again, yes, it has problems. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a perfect film. I enjoy the film greatly. Has some amazing moments in it. Might be one of the most beautifully shot films that I've ever seen. The cinematography is amazing. Scenes right out of comic books, and getting characters right. Batman and Wonder Woman, I think were done tremendously well. Lex Luthor, whether you like him or not, I think is an interesting take on the character and something that I want to see more of. Shortly after that, the same year, we got Suicide Squad. Now, that's interesting because Suicide Squad is vastly different from Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel. Directed by David Ayer, was much brighter in some sense, as well as being dark. They were trying to go for a Guardians of the Galaxy type of feel with the movie. You can feel the presence of Warner Brothers messing with David Ayer's vision. There were many reports of how Warner Brothers came in and made him adjust certain things and do different things so it would fit the tone that they were looking for, as opposed to the tone that he wrote and directed originally. I liked the film when I first saw it. I liked the film the second time I saw it. The third time I saw it, I started to dislike it. And every time that I've seen it since, I like it less and less. It does not hold up. It is not that great of a film. Don't get me wrong. The characterizations of each of the characters is fantastic. It's phenomenal. I think Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, fantastic. She knocks out of the park. Will Smith as Deadshot, amazing. Jared Leto as Joker, I really, really enjoyed, but I just got to see more. I got to see more of what he's going to bring to the table. The other characters, Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, I thought was fantastic. He was perfect for that role. I've always thought Jai Courtney was a better supporting character than a main character, so I hope that he's utilized sometime down the line in a Flash movie. I think it would be fantastic to see him in a Flash movie and going toe-to-toe with Ezra Miller's Flash. I just think it would be amazing. But that was Suicide Squad. Again, divisive, not so much as Batman vs. Superman. I don't think there was as much of a split on Suicide Squad as there was with Batman vs. Superman, but there's surely a split on who likes it and who doesn't. Then we had nearly an entire year to wait until the next movie came out. And that movie was Wonder Woman. And a fantastic movie it was. While, again, it's an origin movie of Wonder Woman, we understand who she is, where she comes from, everything like that. Very much like Man of Steel. Patty Jenkins did an amazing job with Wonder Woman. I don't think it's up there with Man of Steel. I know a lot of other people think it is up there or even higher. But something I've noticed over the past year since it's been out, there are a lot of people are starting to talk badly about it. And I think it's just that pack mentality, because, out of, what is it now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies in the DC universe, or DCU, or DC Cinematic Universe, whatever you want to call it, there have only been really, in my opinion, 2 amazing films. One pretty good film, one alright film, and one that's kind of So I think the pack mentality is they look at it as these movies have all sucked, so that one's got to suck. And I think over time, because of that mentality, people are starting to say that Wonder Woman sucks. But if you really go back and watch it, not only is the music phenomenal in that movie, just like it was phenomenal in Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel, but it's shot beautifully. The way it empowers Wonder Woman and shows the kind of person that she is was fantastic. It was kind of, and believe it or not, it's the same as Man of Steel in a sense. You know, you have this person who knows they have these abilities, but they're not aware on how to become the person who they're eventually going to become. You know, Clark did not understand that he was going to become Superman. Wonder Woman, Diana, did not know that she was going to become Wonder Woman until she was out there. And even at the end, you know, she talks about the world being just a bad place. You know, humans and mankind are just not nice. And again, it's the same arc that Superman has gone on. People criticize Superman, but they don't criticize Wonder Woman for it. And that just baffles me a little bit, because Wonder Woman is applauded as such a great film, and it really is a great film. I love that movie. Villain was a little weak, but hey, I mean, that's comic book movies usually, so that's how it kind of works. Finally, we end with Justice League. That was the final film that come out so far in the DC filmverse, and with all of the crap that has happened with Justice League, or that happened with Justice League, with Zack Snyder possibly being ousted and replaced with Joss Whedon, not being Zack Snyder's decision, but WB actually pushing him out and firing him. The reshoots, the script rewrites, all of that, you know, release the Snyder Cut, hashtag release the Snyder Cut, all this stuff that has gone on with Justice League. I remember going to the theater. I saw it twice on opening night. I enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it. It's not a horrible film. I will defend Justice League for that reason. However, what upsets me about it is you can plainly see that it does not finish the story that Zack Snyder was trying to continue and create with the Superman arc. And honestly, I believe it was supposed to go into Justice League 2 even. I think it was going to be more of like a 4-film story arc for Superman, from, becoming Superman, to the death of Superman, to the resurrection, and to becoming the Superman that we all know and love. I think that's a brilliant idea with our superheroes, is to bring us on that journey to really show us the development of these heroes, and not just have them show up and like, hey, I'm the, Boy Scout in blue, look at me, I'm awesome, everybody love me. It's so unbelievable. And I know Marvel pretty much does that. You take a look at something like Iron Man, and yeah, we see the development. We see him become Iron Man, but there's not much to it. It's just like, he's Iron Man. Yeah, some people don't like it, but he doesn't care. He just keeps moving on with his life. And again, like, even the storyline in the MCU is very similar to the story that they were trying to tell in the Zack Snyder DC films, of how the world can react to these superhumans and superpowered beings. But, again, because it was just different, because they did it a different way, it just wasn't liked. And that's unfortunate, because I think it would have been awesome to see Zack Snyder get to finish his vision. I know when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, you don't want to do that, because, companies can lose out on money if they don't turn out how you want. But I believe that Justice League probably would have done better had Zack Snyder gotten to finish that movie. I think because to that point, I think so many of us were already like, okay, this is Zack Snyder. This is what we're going to get. This is how we're going to get it. This is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. And it was switched and changed up. And again, we got a good movie. It's not a terrible movie, but it just is not the movie that I think we needed or deserved, honestly. I think we should have been given something better, and I believe Zack Snyder's version could have done that. So that's where we're at. We are now less than 6 months out from the next DC movie, Aquaman. We're a few days away from Comic-Con, and we know, and we believe at Comic-Con we're going to start getting some information on what's going to come with Warner Brothers and DC in their film universe. First and foremost, we're going to get a trailer for Aquaman. We're probably going to get a teaser trailer of some sort for Shazam, which comes out next March. I'm excited for. We got the first picture of it. just a few days back, first official image, Zachary Levi looks fantastic as Shazam. I think it's going to be awesome. I do. I think it's going to be great. And I think we're going to get, a sneak peek. I think they've already said that we're going to get a sneak peek of Cheetah from the upcoming Wonder Woman sequel, Wonder Woman 84, as it's currently titled. So, with that said, what are we going to get from Comic-Con? That's not really what I'm going to talk about. I don't want to talk. I think we're going to talk about that on this week's episode of Bridging the Geekdoms. Colton and I are going to sit down and have a discussion on what to expect from Comic-Con. This, while I think, I'll get into a little bit of what I expect we're going to be told, this is more of how they can fix the perception and what people want from the DC film universe. Now, there was an article that came out a few days ago, or about a week ago, that talked about Henry Cavill, or it wasn't talking about Henry Cavill, it was an interview with Henry Cavill where he stated that he knows that the initial sequel to Man of Steel 2, which was originally what was going to be shot after Man of Steel, and then they changed it to Batman vs. Superman. But Man of Steel 2 was going to delve more into the effects of him killing Zod, and then what that did to him as a person in becoming this superhero that he is. Now, that's interesting because that's one of the biggest issues that a lot of fans and people have with that movie, is that he really, he shouldn't have killed. That's what a lot of people say. He shouldn't have killed Zod. I disagree. I think it was that point in his journey where he had to make a tough decision. It was rescue the humans, rescue and be that hero for humans, or kill Zod, essentially killing the only other person that could have any connection to who he is. Also taking a life, for the first time. It's not something that, many people can or would ever want to do. So that's kind of where it's all, that it's all going. That's kind of what the Man of Steel 2 was going to be about that and how he was coping with that. Now, at this point, we've had Batman vs. Superman, which took place 18 months after Man of Steel. And then we have Justice League, continuing the Superman arc. Here's the thing. There's no reason why they still can't do that. There's not a single reason at all. And actually, it could, if they did it right, it could enhance not only Man of Steel, but Batman vs. Superman as well. Now, hear me out. So we have 18 months between Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. Man of Steel 2 can take place between Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. There's no reason why they can't do that. And I think it would be brilliant if they did it this way. Some people might be upset because of the suit, but they could go back and utilize the Batman vs. Superman suit, which was a lot better than the Man of Steel suit, and I still think kind of better than the Justice League suit. The Justice League suit is more to who the character is to become the happy-go-lucky, Boy Scout, but they could get closer to that Batman vs. Superman suit in this time. Now, during that 18 months, what was Superman doing? It would be perfect to have him have, a smaller villain or something like that to deal with during this time. You could also have Lex Luthor in this film, and we could see him figure out and learn how he discovered who Superman is and who Batman is. You can have that plot going on in the background and see his story come together as well. You can see the relationship between Lois and Clark grow. You can see him being the reporter at the Daily Planet and how, he's starting to dislike the kind of news that Perry White wants to put out. There's a lot that they could do in an 18-month span of time, because a movie can take place over a couple days, a couple weeks, a month span of time, and you can explain so much of what was missing from Batman vs. Superman and help enhance that movie. So then if you watch Man of Steel 2, Batman vs. Superman, that story can be so much more in depth and so much stronger than just going Man of Steel to Batman vs. Superman. I think it would be brilliant. I think it would be foolish for them to just push all of those movies behind and just say, let's start after Justice League, Man of Steel 2, we're moving forward. Because I think that they could do everything that they want to do that way. You can have him as the Boy Scout. You can have him happy. You don't have to have him brooding like he was in Batman vs. Superman. Because Batman vs. Superman, that's a different story. That's a time when the world is questioning, do we need a Superman? So it would make sense for him to be brooding and just unsure. At this point in time, in Man of Steel 2, what they could do, if they did it this way, he kills Zod. And we see the after effects of that on what it's doing to him. He's unable to sleep. He's unable to, really cope with how everything is going and how everything is being handled. And you have another villain pop up that he has to take on. And this villain, he learns because of what happened with Zod, he doesn't kill this person. He doesn't kill the villain. He's able to overcome that. And during the process, it's Lois who is the one who really truly connects to him to make him this Boy Scout, make him a better person, gets him through that difficult time with Zod, and he, eventually becomes like, hey, I'm doing good. Like at the end of Man of Steel 2, it could be, look at what I'm doing. Look at the good that I'm doing for the world. And then boom, it comes to Batman vs. Superman, and it's the world turning on him. And that's where you go, you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. That story arc now makes sense because you go from becoming a superhero to believing he's doing what's right for the world, to then being questioned if he's doing what's right for the world, to at the end of Batman vs. Superman knowing, look, this is my world. This is what I have to do. And he sacrifices himself, and then he comes back in Justice League as who he is. I think that would be a brilliant idea. I think that would be a way to reestablish Superman, fix the story of Superman if you believe it needs fixed. I think it would be a great way to move forward with the franchise. I think it'd be fantastic. What else should they do? Well, Wonder Woman 84 is coming out. That's going to take place in the 80s. Honestly, they can keep doing what they're doing with Wonder Woman. I think Patty Jenkins is going to do an amazing job with it. It'll be fine. We got Shazam, we got Aquaman. Flash. Everybody wants a Flash movie. I want a Flash movie, you want a Flash movie, we all want a Flash movie. That could be the first movie that picks up right after Justice League, I think. I believe Aquaman takes place before Justice League. I could be wrong. I really don't remember what I've read on that. I believe it takes place before Justice League. If I'm wrong, if it takes place after, that's fine. Whatever. But Flash, have it take place right after. Have him suffering some PTSD from the events of Batman, or from Justice League a little bit, maybe even PTSD from how he got his powers. So you can have a flashback scene on how he gained his powers and his ability to utilize the Speed Force. I think that would be brilliant. But overall, I think it would be a great way to push forward the idea of the Justice League. I think it would be a great way for utilizing him where he just wants to be a part of a team, but they're all off. The team is all off doing their own thing. Wonder Woman is doing something in Europe. Superman is, working in Metropolis. Batman is in Gotham. Aquaman is doing his thing in Atlantis. And make it where he's like, what, I thought we had this cool team, and he's not sure how to be the hero that he needs to be by himself. And he wants to be like Superman. He wants to be as looked on as Superman is, but he just doesn't know how to do it, and he wants that team, and it would be a good story arc for him to become the Flash, really become the Flash that he is. You can have Bruce Wayne show up at some point in the film, and like, here's a new suit for you, Barry, just like was supposed to happen in Justice League. Do something like that, because I think my biggest complaint, while I really enjoy Ezra Miller's rendition or portrayal of the Flash, I think that there were some issues with how he really kind of, was the Flash. Like, he wasn't confident. He wasn't the Flash yet. He was still a kid learning about what he is and who he is. And I think that the first movie needs to be him discovering how to use his powers and his strengths. The most obvious villain to use would be the Reverse Flash, and I think that the best idea would be to do a trilogy of Flash films, with the third one being a Flashpoint movie, leading into Justice League 2. or Justice League 3 or something like that down the line, a Justice League movie. So you would have Flash, his enemies, the Reverse Flash, has some issues, he defeats him. Second movie, have the Rogues, have Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, all those kind of characters, all his a bunch of his rogue gallery in there, and go against them. And then the third one, have the Reverse Flash come back, and the Reverse Flash on a mission to destroy and make it where the Flash never exists, and that's how Barry goes back and saves his mom. And because the Reverse Flash knows that if his mom never dies, the Flash never exists, and he convinces the Flash to go back and save his mom, causing Flashpoint, which would lead into whatever Justice League movie would be next at that point, kind of resetting a lot of things in the DC universe. I think would be fantastic. I just think it would be a brilliant idea to do that. With the other characters, we need a Green Lantern movie, absolutely. But from that point, I want to see one. I just don't know where you would take it, because we have an established Justice League right now. So inserting him into the universe, maybe popping up in Justice League 2 or 3, like, yo, I'm Hal Jordan, or hey, yo, I'm John Stewart, or Kyle Rayner, or whomever they're going to use, might feel weird. I think that there would need to be some sort of crossover at some other point. And that's kind of what Warner Brothers and DC is saying they're not going to do. They're not going to have as many crossovers like they were doing with Batman vs. Superman, and even a little bit of Suicide Squad that there was. So, but getting really back to what they can do right now to fix right now, I think the number one thing is Man of Steel 2. If they do it, like I said, I think would be fantastic. Now, obviously, I believe they're going to be announcing Man of Steel 2 at Comic-Con. They probably already have a story idea lined up, maybe even a director lined up, and it's probably going to take place after Justice League, unfortunately. But I think it would be fantastic if they did something, like I said, right between Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, to really expand that story of who Superman is. I think would have been fantastic. Flash, I think they need to focus on. I think he would be a good use of really getting the whole idea that the Justice League team isn't just together all the time. They are off doing their own thing, and only in real big events do they come together. I think that Flash would be the best character to utilize for that. Aquaman, I don't really know what to expect with that. Good things. I do expect good things. I just don't know how it's going to fit into the overall universe. And like I said, I'd love to see Green Lantern, a Batman film. I think needs to establish who Batman is. I think it needs to establish the Bat family. If you're going to make this big universe, which I really think they need to stick to doing, they need to establish the Bat family, and maybe even start doing the Bat family films, Nightwing, Batgirl, just stuff like that. I think they need to introduce into the universe. So that's kind of what I have in mind for the DC film universe. Let me know what you think, whether you like it or not. If you haven't yet, listen to our podcast where we talk about news and comics and movies and everything like that on Bridging the Geekdoms. Like I said, the most recent episode is about San Diego Comic-Con and what we expect to have happen from there. The following episode will be coverage from Comic-Con and what was announced and what was shown. So thanks for listening. I will definitely be talking to all of you very shortly. See ya.
What's up, nerds? This is Deej Penalo here from the Nerdtalkalypse Podcast Network, and I'm here to talk to you guys about Patreon. Patreon.com/Nerdtalkalypse Podcast Network. If you become a patron, you pay as little as $1 per month, recurring. That is $12 per year billed monthly. That is less than pennies a day and hardly noticeable when it comes out. That is less than you pay for a coffee or a Coke. Now listen, when you do this, you gain access to an exclusive patron-only RSS feed. You can add that RSS feed to your favorite podcast player. That will be the home of the Nerdtalkalypse podcast bonus shows provided by individual hosts within our network. That being Robert and Colton from Bridging the Geekdoms, me, or Lane from Nerdtalkalypse. That is a really dope deal, guys. We're working really hard to provide you guys more content from within the network. And this will include other Patreon exclusive shows. Head over to our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/nerdtalkalypse. We have a group for the Nerdtalkalypse Podcast Network. You can join Bridging the Geekdoms, all that good stuff. Got a lot of stuff coming. So if you could consider maybe heading over to patreon.com/Nerdtalkalypse Podcast Network and just putting $1 on the line every month, that would be extremely helpful.